Highly sensitive people often hear things like, "You are too sensitive." "Stop taking everything to heart." Or my favorite, "You should really toughen up." The fundamental message is clear. To be highly sensitive is to be highly flawed. I used to agree with that. I always thought I should come with some sort of warning sign or disclaimer, "Careful, highly sensitive." Now, let me share with you a few of the perks of being a highly sensitive person. For one, I have an intensely overactive mind, which means it's impossible to switch off. I often wondered, what good could it possibly do me to be this way? Well, the gifts of sensitivity slowly crept up on me, so that I have a strong intuition that guides me like an infallible GPS. It was only at the age of 25 that I came across a book that changed my life. The Highly Sensitive Person by Dr. Elaine Aron. I could finally put a name to my overwhelmingly technicolor experience of life. And it gave me hope that there were others like me. In this book, she describes highly sensitive people, or in short, HSPs, as people who have a genetic trait of sensory processing sensitivity. That's quite a mouthful. And surprisingly, 15 to 20% of the population is HSP. Now, she uses the wonderful acronym DOES to summarize the core traits of HSPs. The D stands for depth of processing. As HSPs, we have a phenomenal ability to deeply analyze absolutely everything. The O stands for overstimulation. We get quickly overwhelmed by the world around us. Now, I'm Bavarian, and I love our Oktoberfest. But I actually have to leave after an hour because I get completely overpowered by the mix of roast chicken smells with candy floss and the cacophony of songs and the massive crowds. It is too much for my senses. The E stands for empathy. HSPs feel what others feel. It's like that old Hebrew saying, when one cries, the other tastes salt. Lastly, the S stands for awareness of subtleties. HSPs are like a finely tuned sensor. They can pick up on the minutest things. Unfortunately, that means that they are also the kind of people that will wake you up at 3 a.m. to tell you that they hear a tap dripping in the kitchen 2 floors down. As you can see, being an HSP is about far more than emotional reactivity. I would like to address the 2 big elephants in the room when it comes to HSP stereotypes. The first assumption is that HSPs must simply be undercover introverts that wanted a fancier name. The fact of the matter is, 30% of HSPs are actually extroverts, which means we cannot park them in the convenient quiet wallflower category. HSPs come in many shades of pastel. Secondly, because of the supposed femininity of HSP traits, many assume that HSPs are women. May come as a surprise that 50% of HSPs are in fact men. In our society, men are not supposed to be sensitive, but aggressive and competitive. Sadly, the notion that men can be both sensitive and strong is still too much of an alien concept. Now, it is a good time to tell you that I don't think HSPs are better or worse than anyone else. They are simply different. I would also like to point out, despite the rumors, that they are not members of the special Snowflake Society. And also, HSPs don't have a secret handshake to identify each other either. HSPs are like everyone else, except that they experience the world in a more vivid way. And if you think that all HSPs are alike, that's not true. No 2 HSPs are the same. Every HSP has their own unique sensitive fingerprint, alongside other identity markers like gender, ethnicity, and cultural and personal background. I would also like to point out that being an HSP is not an illness, and it is also not a choice. It is a genetic trait. We are essentially born to be mild. Every time you tell an HSP they are too sensitive, it is like telling someone with blue eyes that their eyes are too blue. Chances are, no matter how often you tell them, you will still have those same blue eyes looking back at you. As a society, we have come to think of sensitivity as a flaw, an unfortunate emotional Achilles heel that tempers our ability to become ever more optimized, detached, and robotic. We all too readily belittle the idealists, the dreamers, and the creators. This was, however, not always the case. In previous centuries, philanthropists, philosophers, poets, artists, and painters were all venerated for their sensitive contribution to society.
First. Moria had been taken by legions of orcs, led by the most vile of all their race, Azog.
The most common times people experience it are when they first try to move, or when they're going through transitions, like through doorways, onto elevators, maybe from one ground to the next, or when they're turning around or encountering unexpected stimuli, like coming upon someone.
Come on, buddy. Scoot. And there he goes. Okay, bud. Shake it off. You can do it. Up you go.
Stand up, please. I'll bring your work down here.
Oh, right on the floor.
Does it have sound?
Yeah, it does.
Stand up, please.
David, I can't even get you. You're so close to the floor. He's figured out the perfect place. David, let's get up. David, up.
Come on. Up.
David, up.
Good.
Good job getting up. Woo.
Awesome.
Come on, time to work well.
Up, please. Stand up.
David.
Stand up.
Up. 1, 2. Good job.
Let's go.
3. Almost had him. David, up. 1. Come on.
Stand up,
2.
please. Come on.
3. 4. It's uncomfortable. 5. 6. Come on, David. Up. 7.
Come on.
Good job.
Let's go.
8. Good job, David. 9.
Let's go. We're going to go in the car. That's
Come on.
our car.
Earning car, David.
Stand up, please.
Earning car. Come on. Up. 1. Come on. Up. David, come on. Up. Hey, I'm just trying to get your attention. Come on. Up. Yikes.
If you watch that animal after he finishes convulsing, you'll see, because he's aware of the fact that we're all around him, and it's a very stressful experience for an animal like a polar bear. Come after he settles down, and then he'll start doing a couple of deep breaths, and then he'll breathe really nicely, and it'll really... Now, go, here he goes. See how he's breathing in now? You can see, so that even though it looks a little...
Performing pain, autism. I'm not good at communicating my pain. It's my greatest weakness. I'm terrible at asking for help. I'm terrible at reaching out to you. And I'm worst at this when I'm distracted by physical discomfort. I have often been told what a coper I am, how well I cope with stressful situations, how well I cope with shock and pain. Not because I am coping, but because I communicate these things differently. What is pain? How do you quantify it? How do you get across just how much or how little you are in? I am autistic, which means that I have a social communication condition, which means that I do not naturally or intuitively understand or, perhaps more importantly, perform social communication. Most of the time, I can do it all. I have learned your ways. I may not understand why this question needs this answer, but I know enough to say it anyway. I know how to interpret your body language. I know how to mirror you, how to place my intonation, how to gesture, how to place my expressions. I'm so well practiced, and this is such a well-worn skill that there is no delay at all, unless I'm in pain. Pain wipes all those things away. It wipes away my ability to read you. It wipes away my ability to project pained expressions. Pain destroys my ability to communicate like a non-autistic. Why? Because it takes up so much space. Imagine you can speak another language quite well. Not fluently, you have to think of each word, but you can speak it. Now imagine that you are in pain and you need to communicate that to someone, but can only do it in that language. How difficult would it be to find the words? When you stub your toe, would you be able to think quickly enough to say the right word, or would you automatically respond in your native tongue? When I am in pain, my expressions fall. My lilting musical intonation becomes low and flat. My face blank. My shoulders stiff. When I am in pain, I react in my natural way, in my intuitive way. I become silent and passive, and connecting to other people, well, it seems like a distant dream. Words are in my head, but I struggle to get them out. Talking feels strange and alien. All the ways I know to ask for help slip through my fingers, and I watch them as they fall. Pain makes me authentically autistic. It strips back my mask and my connections, and it sits me down, silent and alone. Ask me in those moments to quantify my pain. Ask me to give a number from 1 to 10 and see me get lost in the detail. The big picture is that you just want to know how bad my pain is. I'm not naturally a big picture thinker. See how I try to work out the right answer. I cannot go too high. How high is losing a limb? How high is a heart attack? How high is the biggest pain I can imagine? best to be conservative, best to give myself leeway from more pain, best to say that the greatest pain I have ever experienced is a 6. And this is nearly there, so it's a 5. The big picture is that they want to know how much pain I am in, but I cannot see that without my communication filter in place. I cannot see beyond the literal and the right. If I say 5 and say it without wincing or grimacing, you will not understand. You will leave me with my detail. You will leave me with the second biggest pain I have ever felt, because I cannot speak your language. Those closest to me know that when I go silent and still in all but my hands, I am a tactile stimmer. Those are the moments that I am in trouble. They understand my communication. I worry that one day I will be surrendered by people who do not. People who think that pain looks big and loud and obvious, not small and quiet and far away. We need to remember that no matter how good I am at appearing to be one of you, I am not. Your language is not my language. Your intuition is not my intuition. We need to remember that. I cannot always communicate in your ways. I cannot always do things for you. Sometimes I will need more. Sometimes I will be screaming for help in my way. The question is, will you hear me? Content warning. Sarcasm level 10. There are a million, billion, gazillion diseases and disorders which occur more often in autistic people than in the general population. Mast cell disorders, ion channel diseases, mitochondrial diseases, connective tissue disorders, and blah blah blah, fish paste. Lots and lots and lots and lots of researchers say so. Okay, so here's the catch. Some of these are, oh dear, mental disorders. When you have a so-called mental disorder, then in the eyes of most medical people, you become immune to all those diseases. In fact, in the eyes of the professional treating you, there is no link whatsoever between mental illness and anything else that may be wrong in your body, in spite of what medical research may say. Thyroid? Nah. Gut issues? Definitely not. Ion channels? If your doctor can't remember what they learned about that in medical school, then no. So when you repeatedly go to the doctor or end up in the emergency room crying or in a meltdown with symptoms of any of those diseases I mentioned above, you will typically be seen as malingering, somaticizing, or just being a good old-fashioned hypochondriac. Or, if it's more dramatic, then presenting with conversion disorder. In plain language, it means you are making it all up because you are mad. Because that is what mad people do. They imagine things. All these diseases may be real. They may be common in autistic people. but you can't possibly have any of them because you have a mental disorder. And besides, you're autistic. See? Although autistics allegedly don't have an imagination, autistics also simply aren't trustworthy, apparently, and they don't know anything about themselves. Oh, and also because this medical magician doesn't know that these things are common in autistic people, they therefore are not common in autistic people. Whatever your doctor doesn't know about simply isn't true and doesn't exist. Also, bear in mind that if you have a meltdown, your chances of getting help with any of these diseases drops dramatically, because people who are really sick don't have meltdowns. They behave like so-called normal, healthy people. Paradoxically, if you do your level best to behave like a so-called normal, healthy person, you won't get help either, because you look too normal and healthy. So there's my question to doctors and other medical professionals who view behavior as their primary diagnostic dipstick and who won't run a blood test, a urine test, or any kind of freaking relevant test unless you pass the behavioral dipstick test. What is this behavior that autistic people must have before you will take their health issues seriously? Can you please point all autistic patients to this medically credible behavior training so that they can present that to you before their limbs fall off?